Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. An arrest in the stabbing death of a 17-year-old boy on a Surrey bus.
The individual that was arrested does have an association to the deceased.
The incident no longer considered random, and what police are doing to make transit safer. Plus, the public inquiry into the killing of a man by police. The answers Miles Gray's family is hoping for. And changes to YVR to avoid future travel chaos and delays.
The number and the length of tarmac delays and the length of time that passengers had to stay on board aircraft during that December disruption was unacceptable.
What the airport's $40 million plan entails.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. We begin tonight with a major development in a deadly transit attack last week. An arrest in the stabbing death of teenager Ethan Besplug on board a Surrey bus. Dan Burrett joins us live with more. And Dan, that person arrested is also a young man.
Correct, Anita. It was almost a week ago that 17-year-old Ethan Besplug was stabbed while riding the 503 bus near the King George SkyTrain station. His mother says he texted a friend moments before saying he was scared. His mother then tracked his phone to Royal Columbian Hospital, where he died. Today, the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team announced 20-year-old Caden Mintenko of Burnaby has been charged with second-degree murder. Police say officers arrested him in Burnaby yesterday with help from the emergency response team. That took 6 days, they say, to ensure what they call a safe arrest. They say police have dealt with Mintenko before. IHID says Besplug and Mintenko knew each other through someone else, and this attack was not random. Anita, we spoke with Ethan's mother. We saw some footage of her there a short time ago over the phone. She says she's thankful charges have been laid. She thanks police and hopes there is justice for her son.
And Dan, Ethan's killing, of course, comes amid a string of violent and disturbing attacks in and around transit recently. What are police saying that they're doing to fight these?
The head of the Surrey RCMP says they're working closely with transit police and will boost patrols immediately around transit hubs.
By reassigning our mobile street enforcement team to these areas, we need to show a visible presence to reassure members of the public. Lastly, the investigative and intelligence-led approach to prolific offenders using transit will be front stage to address these issues.
As you said, Besplug's killing was in and around several other attacks near and on transit last week and this week. Numerous commuters tell us they're more aware of who they sit near. Some avoid eye contact with others. The unions for transit workers say their employees are also more concerned about public safety. Premier David Eby, meanwhile, says the province has contacted the federal government to make sure BC is part of any national response to violence on transit. Anita.
Dan Burrett live for us tonight. Thank you. A public inquiry is underway into a man killed in a violent encounter with Vancouver police almost 8 years ago. As Valpuri reports, the inquest could see the officers involved in the incident publicly answer questions about what happened for the first time.
Miles Gray was 33 when he died.
He was a lover and not a fighter, and he was just a very funny guy, and he made friends everywhere he went.
In August 2015, Gray was in town to make a delivery for his seashell floral business. Along the way, he encountered a homeowner watering her lawn and confronted her for doing so during a drought. The day ended in a fatal confrontation with police.
It just feels very corrupt that this can happen in Canada, that they haven't had to say anything, and we've just been waiting.
Gray's injuries were so massive, an autopsy failed to determine exactly what killed him. A report from the BC Prosecution Service says police restrained Gray's arms and legs, punched, kicked and kneed him, pepper sprayed him and struck him with a baton. There have been inconclusive reviews of what happened that day by the Independent Investigations Office of BC and the Police Complaints Commissioner. Critics say 7 years is a long time to wait for answers.
We think that there's a lot of accountability mechanisms happening and that we should just sit back and trust the police and that we're going to get to the bottom of it. But really what this is showing us is that it's really hard to get to the truth. It's hard to get to facts. Our systems aren't set up truly for police accountability.
Gray's sister told the coroner's inquest her brother was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 1999 and was on medication. After that, she says there were no more psychotic episodes. But the day he was killed, he could have been in crisis, and police should have known what to do.
They need to be able to verbally de-escalate people. They need to learn what to do when somebody is in a crisis.
The inquest will be the first time police officers will speak publicly about how and why Miles Gray died. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
Mounties in Pitt Meadows are investigating after a man's body was found near the Golden Ears Bridge. RCMP say the body was found in a wooded area west of the bridge and that the death is considered suspicious. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team has been deployed and they say there is no threat to public safety. Well, two recent arrests are highlighting the scope of BC's gang conflict, showing violence has extended out of the Lower Mainland and into communities in both the southeast and the north.
The ongoing gang conflict that originated in the Lower Mainland is dynamic in nature and no longer confined to the geographic area of the Lower Mainland.
Today, Mounties are warning criminal groups are looking to establish networks at provincial, national, and even international levels. They also revealed arrests have been made in relation to two murders. One man has been arrested in relation to the targeted shooting of Anthony Graham in Prince George. Another two have been arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the shooting death of Penticton woman Kathleen Richardson. Well, YVR says it's committed to improving operations after December's travel mayhem that saw mass delays, cancellations, and frustrations. As Joel Ballard reports, the Vancouver Airport Authority has unveiled a $40 million 25-point action plan to make sure it never happens again.
Despite the cheery holiday music, last Christmas at YVR was a time of chaos. Many stranded at the airport for days. The airport admits it wasn't their finest hour.
The number and the length of tarmac delays and the length of time that passengers had to stay on board aircraft during that December disruption was unacceptable.
Severe winter weather over the busiest travel week of the year led to 1,300 flight cancellations, with more than 180,000 passengers impacted. Now, a new report has found that there was no single cause but a perfect storm, with demand far exceeding the airport's capacity.
This action report identifies the ways that we are and we will continue to do better in the future.
The review highlighted dozens of needed changes, including airport weather monitoring with the installation of YVR's own weather center, new baggage tracking technology, aircraft coordination, and new gate protocols so passengers can deplane within 30 minutes of landing. For one aviation management expert, it's a strong first step, but lacking on specifics.
You know, I think the tactical side is really missing. The overall strategies and the overall direction that Vancouver Airport wants to take is great. I just wanted to see a bit more detail.
And the challenges experienced in Vancouver, he says, aren't unique.
It's around the world. I think that, you know, we're all experiencing the impact of climate change.
He says airports have to be flexible and adapt, and only time will tell if YVR actually learned from its mistakes.
Running an airport is a trust business. Can you rely on us to do what you expect us to do?
Vrooman recognizes that many passengers have lost that trust, but says she's confident the airport will earn it back. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
Highway 1 outside of Hope will be closing intermittently over the next 6 weeks. It will happen 10 times a day to allow crews to complete work meant to prevent rock falls in the area. Crews will be working near Hunter Creek, and the road closures will last between 20 and 35 minutes each. The province says fire activity last September burned vegetation along a bluff above the highway, which had previously helped bind rocks together. The loss of vegetation has led to an increased risk of rockfall. And the Steveston Harbour Authority is calling on Ottawa to help finance much-needed dredging in the channel as more and more boats run aground due to increasingly shallow water. Today, the province, the City of Richmond, and the Steveston Harbour Authority each committed just over $2 million to dredge the channel. The Harbour Authority's general manager says still that leaves them about $2 million short. The entrance of the channel was last dredged in 2010. And BC will soon have what health experts describe as a hospital version of air traffic control, allowing staff to monitor bottlenecks, inpatient status, and capacity in real time. Officials say the Care Coordination Centre will be managed by Providence Healthcare and will be implemented at St. Paul's, Mount St. Joseph, and Holy Family Hospitals.
And realistically, what it's doing is pulling real-time information from all of the different systems across the hospital that we're already using day to day and aggregating that in a way that's easy for staff to identify the information they need, where the pressure points are, where the bottlenecks and delays are, so that they can take action based on kind of what those bottlenecks and delays are.
The centre will be implemented in phases, with the first focusing on capacity and staffing this summer. The other phases will be implemented by the end of next year. Well, family, friends, and fans gathered at the Commodore yesterday to celebrate the life of broadcast icon Red Robinson.
What brings everyone together here is the love that they felt from Red. Red, if you hear the commonality in stories, it wasn't about Red the icon, it was about Red the person who seemed to care about everybody and everyone's careers.
The longtime broadcaster, show promoter, and advocate for rock and roll in Vancouver died on April 1st, just days after his 86th birthday. The BC Entertainment Hall of Fame credits him as the first DJ in Canada to play rock and roll music on a regular basis. Robinson was inducted to the Canadian Broadcast Hall of Fame in 1997 and the Rockabilly Hall of Fame in 2000, retiring from radio in 2007. The City of Vancouver declared March 30th, 2017, Red Robinson Day in honor of his 80th birthday to recognize his work in bringing some of the biggest acts in the 50s and 60s to Vancouver, including Elvis Presley. He went on to interview the Beatles and even called Johnny Cash a friend. Celebration organizers say a public celebration of Robinson's life is planned for later this year, and they hope to get a street, park, or some kind of space named after him. Well, there's a warning tonight for Vancouver pet owners. Stay away from Trafalgar Park, just south of Kitsilano in Arbutus Ridge. BC Conservation Service says there have been several reports of coyotes biting dogs and following people in the area. As Janella Hamilton reports, it was a close call for one dog walker.
The coyote had maybe heard us and turned around and came charging at us.
Just before 2 o'clock Friday afternoon, Ava Lund was walking one of her client's dogs near Valley Drive in King Edward Avenue when a coyote she describes as large came running at them full speed.
It came right up to us. I thought that it was going to bite me or the dog that I was walking. I was screaming, the dog was barking, lunging. It wasn't scared at all.
Lund is one of several people in that neighborhood to report a close encounter with a coyote. BC conservation officers say they've received multiple reports of coyotes biting dogs and following people, prompting a warning to steer clear of the area and specifically Trafalgar Park in Arbutus Ridge.
I had been speaking to neighbors in the area that morning too, and they were saying that it had become a problem here. Last weekend, one of my clients was walking around here and one of the coyotes grabbed her dog's jacket.
In a statement, the Vancouver Park Board says it's denning season for coyotes. The animals may act more boldly as they protect their dens where their pups are born. Trafalgar Park is popular with animals and kids. Conservation officers are reminding everyone to take precautions.
Push this to the side and then you're able to spray.
Lund has bought a dog and coyote deterrent spray and plans to attach a whistle to her keychain for future walks.
Yeah, I'm a little bit anxious to be out in the area right now.
The park board says if you see a coyote, do not approach it, face the coyote and slowly back away. If the animal approaches, make yourself big, stand tall with your arms stretched and yell. Do not turn your back or run, as coyotes have a natural instinct to chase what they believe is prey, and always report the encounter to 311. In August 2021, a coyote bit a 5-year-old child in Stanley Park, one of several attacks in the same area that summer. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
One of Vancouver's marquee summer events is slated to return this July. Honda's Celebration of Lights is set to illuminate the skies over English Bay with fireworks displays on July 22nd, 26th, and 29th. This year's competitors haven't been announced yet, but the festival is one of the province's largest public events. Last year, more than 400,000 people were estimated to have attended. And the Sakura Days Japan Fair has returned to Van Dusen Botanical Garden to celebrate spring and the beauty of cherry blossoms. Take a look.
This is the 18th year of the festival, and this event has been going on pretty early. I want to say this is the 12th year for this event itself, and it's sort of steadily grown every year. But the main idea is that it's all Canadian Japanese and Japanese companies, artists, vendors, all full of Japanese traditional culture as well as contemporary. The origins of this event is to, the cherry blossoms were a gift from the people of Japan, so several different cities in Japan in the 1930s gifted some cherry blossoms to Vancouver to commemorate the Canadian Japanese who had died in World War I. So this event is to acknowledge that original gift and sort of that ongoing friendship between Vancouver and Japan, but also to celebrate the culture that gives us these trees and all the different culture that goes around that, from haiku to hanami to different sort of cultural things that are connected to spring happening. Kind of doesn't feel too much like spring yet today, but certainly the blossoms are telling us that.
And while the cherry blossoms are out, the ski season at Mount Washington on Vancouver Island is, yes, ended, but the snow isn't going anywhere. Take a look at this.
Another hour, you won't see where I've been, but...
Another spring blast piling up and hiding buildings after an already snowy winter there. Storms like this are more common in mid-January than in mid-April, of course. Places like Highway 28, about 20 minutes west of Campbell River, experienced full winter driving today.
Not the depths of winter, but we are seeing some snowfall at the higher elevations. Pretty much anything over 300 meters is getting snow right now. So that'd be sort of Oak Gold River way up the Sitka Summit towards Port McNeill.
So far in April, it's been cold, 15 of 17 days below average in the Comox Valley, and the trees are slow to bud. Those that have blossomed are dropping the only white most of us want to see on the ground. And meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here now with some not so good news related to that, right?
Yeah, at least we know we have experience now with this spring 2023 weather, Anita. It has been below seasonal, and we've got more of it in the days ahead. But I just love how Pacific Northwesters, we just know our snow levels, hearing it down about 300 meters on the island. We saw that snow line this morning on the North Shore Mountains down around 300, 400 meters after the weekend rain. Let me show you what that low pressure system is doing right now. This has really been our story. These cold low pressure systems that travel down the coast and sit and spin for a few days. And you can see those pinwheels of moisture being directed northeastward. That's what's been bringing us the rain through the day. That's what will keep our temperatures cool for the next couple of days. And it's what may bring us a risk of a thunderstorm tomorrow afternoon. So starting to see some clearing in the next couple of hours, but we're not in the clear. We've got a few more spokes on that wheel to come in the next few days ahead. And look at tomorrow's highs, struggling to hit the double digits across Metro Vancouver. Seasonals for this time of the year, based on our 1981 to 2010 averages anyway, around 15, 16 degrees. And we have only hit that a couple of times so far this spring. It is not just cool for us. The big heat wave in Ontario, that is also being replaced with cooler weather. The jet stream right across the country, just riding low, and that's allowing sort of that modified Arctic air to be in place for almost everyone. 50 centimeters of snow expected for northern Ontario. There's a prairie thunderstorm, and yes, that blue in the interior, that's the snow. Snow levels coming down to around 1,000 meters in the valley. This low pressure system is actually retrograding for the end of the week, so it's Thursday. I think we'll get a bit of a break, hopefully some sunshine, but then look at that Friday, another little Pacific system moves in to replace it. So yeah, this week expect cool and unsettled, which sometimes is how it goes in April. And we're still dealing with that lingering La Nina. So watch for some pop-up thunderstorms right across the province tomorrow. And keep in mind that for us, spring thunderstorms in BC really do mean not only lightning and downpour potential, but hail. So we'll really be watching for that across Metro Vancouver. Just those sporadic downpours of the hail and the graupel. I found some sunshine on Thursday. Anita, there we go. And a little bit drier for Friday and the weekend. And look, a couple of seasonal temperatures in there as well. So something to look forward to.
Good, a little sunshine sandwich there.
Sunshine sandwich, that's it.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, it's been nearly 2 weeks since Vancouver City staff and police cleared tents and structures from the downtown east side over safety and fire concerns. Now, BC's premier has promised to take action on homelessness with the Homes for People plan. That involves response teams working with homeless encampment residents directly to help them find housing. And while details are limited, this strategy is based on a model that has seen success in Seattle since the beginning of the pandemic, and it does not involve police officers. Now, joining me this evening to tell us a little bit more about this, Nicole Alexander is live with us, Director of Outreach and Special Initiatives with the Seattle-based nonprofit Purpose Dignity Action. Nicole, can you give us some more detail about what your group does to help people experiencing homelessness and get them into housing?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening. So our goals when we work with individuals that are in the encampments is to bring them in and to have a housing plan with them. So we initially bring folks in and want to create a stable environment. So we focus on 3 things. We focus on physical health. We want to make sure that anything that folks are going through that they would need a doctor to gain their insurance or so forth, we start to work on that program with them. We work around mental health and SUD, so substance use disorder. And we also work with folks around their legal responsibilities and obligations that they have going on as well.
So what has the success rate been like? How many encampments have you actually worked to clear?
Yeah, we've actually worked in 19 and a half encampments because we partnered in one that was a rather quick activity as well. And we have had success through all of our encampments. Our goal when we work at a site is to have housing plans for every individual that's on that site, if that's with our program or if that's with us being able to case conference with other organizations to be able to get the housing programs for folks and the being able to get folks inside.
How receptive are those people to, wanting to work with your group and other groups?
So we have had great success. We have about a 98% success rate for folks that want to come into the program. And what we have found is it's usually barriers that folks have that instead of discussing those barriers or being turned down, they say no and they try to relocate and not engage. But usually what we've found is just building our relationships. We work long-term in encampments to really build relationships so that we can tackle those barriers together.
So after you develop a plan with them and you've built that relationship and they found housing, do they still get help or at that point are they sort of left on their own?
We actually work with our folks for a year when they come out of our temporary lodging and go into permanent housing. We want to make sure that the transition is a safe transition and that everybody feels like they're supported through that.
Any advice for our province, for British Columbia, as we move forward in this approach to help people long term?
Yeah, absolutely. My biggest piece of advice is it's all about relationships. How we build our relationships with our folks is definitely how we move forward. There's got to be trust in between everybody and to really focus on all of our needs that our folks have. So we have to really look at, do they need medical care, mental health care, substance use? What is it that's a barrier that's keeping them from being able to break the cycle?
Nicole Alexander is with the Seattle-based nonprofit Purpose Dignity Action. Thank you for joining us live tonight.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our show on CBC Vancouver News. With NHL hockey playoffs on at the moment, many of our shows will only be online, but that will always happen at 6 p.m. on YouTube and CBC Gem. And when we are on television, the timing may be a bit off, but we hope to keep you updated. Thanks for sticking with us tonight. Good night.